Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Wednesday One Thing. I'm joined with my co-host Hamza, and today we have a very special guest, one of our heads of growth here, Liam. Liam, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Maury. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm so excited about the article that you brought us this week. It's the crazy world out there in e-commerce, and basically what you brought us this week was this crazy trend coming out of China, which is live shopping e-commerce. And the reason I think this is crazy is it really just proves that time is a flat circle. The concept here is that people will tune onto their phones and do live shopping as if they were watching the shopping network. Really a callback to things that people were doing when TV was booming. So essentially, you have a whole range of influencers, brand owners, I think even politicians are getting on to platforms such as Taobao, which is Alibaba's live streaming e-commerce site, and essentially just making not just pitches, but interacting with products, showing viewers how products work. In China, this is a really big thing because there's so many sellers out there, and this is a great way to establish trust. But this is really having a surgence in North America. And so I just want to start off with a numbers round here, just to show you the scope of how big this trend is becoming. So I'm going to throw this question to Hamza. Hamza, Taobao predicts that over the next 3 years, live streaming on Taobao will generate over blank billions in sales transactions. What number do you got for me?
Hey, Maury. I'm gonna go on a guess and say, let's say 600 billion.
600 billion? Liam,
Yeah.
same question. How many transactions will happen on Taobao over the next 3 years?
I'm gonna say 100 billion.
100 billion. So, wow, Hamza, this is like the first time you've ever been close to being right. Taobao says that over the next 3 years, 500 billions of sales will go through their platform. And this was from 2019 before they even saw the effects of COVID. So if you can believe, like the numbers are outstanding. And then if you think about what's happening with social influencers, these are the people who are making or really stand to make a lot of money from this platform. Turning this over to the American side in North America, Liam, you brought this to us. What are you seeing in North America, and how is this really going to translate over to our side of the world?
Yeah, so I think it's like a really interesting topic. I think in like North America right now, the sales are, I think in this year, a recent article I read for either this year or last year in the US, this kind of like live streaming e-commerce was, there was about $1 billion worth of sales, which is like, I think in China or Asia, or yeah, I think like China was like 60 billion or something in 2019. So it's obviously like such a like small fraction of like what it is in Asia. And I think like if we look to like how like trends typically progress, like usually like a lot of this innovation happens like abroad first and then comes into the States and vice versa sometimes. But I think like the States is so prime to for this to really explode for a couple of reasons. So like if you think back to like the old like TV infomercial, TV shopping type thing, like this is just this happening on like new social platforms. Like if you think about like how much TikTok grew this year for like a number of reasons, but like how many people are like at home because of COVID, whatever, on their phones, shopping online. To me, it's like such a natural progression for one of these influencers to go from like TikTok onto one of these platforms like Talk Shop Live is this big one that Garth Brooks apparently set the record and had like 3,000 viewers at like one single time watching him sell stuff online with his wife. With like, to me, that's just insane that like my dad listens to Garth Brooks, and he's doing this like live streaming e-commerce thing. So yeah, I think it's going to be big. I think in 2021, if what's happening in China is like a sign of what's to come in the US, compounded by COVID, compounded by the Garth Brooks effect, I think it could be huge, you know, it could be enormous.
So, yeah, Hamza, you speak to founders on a daily basis. I think the natural progression for people taking advantage of this shift would be doing something like an Instagram Live or going using TikTok. As Liam said, it's a natural sort of progression. What are you seeing on the front lines, and how are founders using this, or what are your insights on this?
Yeah, I think this strategy combines two very addictive behaviors: watching creative content and online shopping. Those are things people love doing, and when you combine them, you can generate 130 billion dollars in sales this year and 500 over the next three, as was predicted. I think what a lot of founders have got onto is the power of creative content in driving customer acquisition. Simply because we've already seen this with Instagram influencers, but you're seeing it increasingly with TikTok influencers. TikTok is a much bigger ad platform today than it was 6 months ago. It was barely an ad platform 6 months ago. Even on Instagram, with the launch of Instagram Reels, for example, like these are all opportunities for genuine, interesting, creative content that anyone would watch in their free time, to incorporate not just brand endorsements, but to a degree online shopping, right? And so this happened, I think, on Singles Day in China, and I think by the time we get to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, 2021, we might see a decent amount of brands going this route as well.
So my question for Liam, like Liam, you're in charge of growth here. You're really tapped into the psychology of buyers. Why do people like live streaming? This isn't like a new thing. We have live streaming gaming. We have people doing Instagram lives. Why does shopping and e-commerce and live streaming work so well together? And why is it having this huge resurgence, do you think?
Yeah, so I think it's a couple of things. And it's like, you're just combining, kind of like Hamza was saying, we know how addicting social media is. Like scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through TikTok, all of these things, we know like the kind of pleasure reward cycle, dopamine, all that stuff. Like that's so proven out at this point, especially like if you look at that documentary on Netflix over the summer, The Social Dilemma. There's a really good book on this called Hooked by Nur Eyal. Basically, these tech companies have got too good at making us addicted to these tech products. And then if you just combine that with like buying stuff, like everybody loves buying stuff. And I think like something that there's like a couple of studies about this is that people love like the anticipation of buying stuff. Like, I don't know if you've ever like bought stuff online, but like in the lead up to like the day before, like if you're checking that email to see if it arrived yet, if you have to go down to like your concierge to see like, is it here? And it could be like the 10th thing you've bought on Amazon that month or that week if you've got a real retail addiction. So I think it's just combining all of these like really proven out psychologically stimulating things like social media, buying stuff, and like adding influencers on top of that equation as well, like people that you're consuming their content that you know and trust. It's honestly like, it's like the perfect storm to just make people buy stuff. And if you're thinking about combining all of these together, you're just removing friction from that process. Like with typical influencers, they're like posting something and then saying like, oh, link in the comments, something like that. If you combine all of these things together, put tech in place to remove all of the friction, I think that's just insanely powerful, way too powerful for our fragile human brains.
So basically the sentiment here is, again, we've come full circle. Shopping, live, e-commerce. I believe this is going to be the biggest thing in 2021. Like the pandemic is still going on. People are still at home. One thing I do want to note before we end this episode and also end one thing for the year is that China is so far ahead of North America in payments technology. And I think that's really one of the reasons why something like this can propel forward. You can easily go on to one of these live streams and check out with WeChat. Right now, we're seeing some interesting stuff in the payment space. We love our guys over at Fast. Shopify has Shop Pay, really seamless checkout. But as you mentioned, Liam, like being able to seamlessly check out, building the anticipation of the sale, and then being able to buy it right away is going to be the make or break for this as an e-commerce platform. Just seeing exactly what you want and seamlessly being able to check out. So in terms of adoption in North America, I'd love to see that explode here. So as I mentioned, this is the last episode of 2020. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you so much, Liam, for joining. Thanks, Hamza, for popping on as well. and we will see you guys next year.